Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your leadership on this issue for many years now. Protection of the most vulnerable among us, the unborn, is one of the most important and most solemn duties that we, I believe, as elected officials undertake. Since Roe v. Wade was decided almost 41 years ago, this subcommittee in particular has been the focal point in the effort to curb abortions nationally. Most notably, it was this subcommittee that first considered and approved the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act of 2003, which I had the honor to introduce, which later passed both houses of Congress, was signed into law by President Bush, and upheld as constitutional by the United States Supreme Court. But as thousands of Americans prepare to head to Washington in about 2 weeks for the annual March for Life, in remembrance of the approximately 50 million American lives lost to abortion since Roe was decided back on January 22, 1973, much more remains to be done. It's appropriate then that this subcommittee again take the lead on legislation that will further limit the number of abortions performed in this country, especially with taxpayer dollars. The No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act, introduced by our colleague Chris Smith of New Jersey, would prevent any federal funding of abortion, whether channeled through insurance plans or paid directly to abortion providers. The bill reaches back through history and seeks to make the Hyde Amendment, as has been mentioned a number of times already, and the Hyde-Weldon Conscience Protection Clause and several other pro-life amendments permanent under federal law. I would note that this bill is a legislative effort to actually implement Executive Order 13535 that President Obama issued back on March 24th of 2010. And that order stated in part, it is necessary to establish an adequate enforcement mechanism to ensure that federal funds are not used for abortion services, consistent with a long-standing federal statutory restriction that is commonly known as the Hyde Amendment. Mr. Chairman, the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act provides that enforcement mechanism, and it has overwhelming public support. A 2011 CNN poll found 61% of the respondents opposed public funding for abortion, and a 2010 Quinnipiac poll showed 67% of the respondents opposed federal funding of abortion. For these reasons, I would urge my colleagues to support this legislation. I thank you for holding this hearing today. Yield back.